Welcome to the Collaboration Conversation, a listener-supported video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. This podcast is made possible through generous listeners and friends like you, and we are so very grateful to all of our supporters. We also want to say a special thank you to The Island in Pigeon Forge for supporting Project Brickworks. For ticket and event information, head over to islandinpigeonforge.com. If you would like to sponsor an episode, head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click Sponsor an Episode. Likewise, if you want to check out or support our nonprofit ministry Project Brickworks, head over to projectbrickworks.org. Today, our very special guest is Jake Johnson. Jake is a husband, a father, choir director, educator, and an incredibly talented musician. We know Jake from Mom's Church, but also from his wife, Haley, who is on our board. And we had her on our podcast, and his father-in-law is Doyle Dykes, and we had him on the podcast. So we're just really in love with this family.
Amen.
And we're just going to keep bringing him around. And Jake, thank you so much for being here today. We're excited to have you.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. And I have to say, I am a huge fan of your family as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really have so much respect for everything that you do. And your dad has gotten me a little bit more sucked into chess.
Yes.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Into chess? What?
So my son, Emmett, is a quirky little fella. And
Okay.
he has these kind of bizarre little kicks he gets on. And chess has been the most recent one. So I am awful, I've discovered, at chess. But but I was talking to Billy, who has a little more experience than me. And he told me about chess.com. Which turns out is really, really fun. So I
Plug for chess.com.
Yeah. Yeah, I am awful. I go on there and play online and lose really badly, but I don't know. It's just something to do. I've been stuck at the house the last week or so it's been good.
Well, do you feel like you're learning more? Oh, don't make that play next time? Or
I would think that my progress would be a little more quick than it
Than it is.
Oh, okay.
It would be a little bit farther along, but that's okay.
Well, but is Emmett on it? Is he on chess.com too? Or
Is who?
your son?
Oh, Emmett is there's Chess Kids. So,
Okay.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a fun little bonding thing for him and I. So.
I love
That's
that.
cool. Well, so I want to ask a little bit more about that, but before we get too into this, tell us a little bit about you and your family, just so we can let our listeners know who you are.
Yes. So Haley and I have been married for 10 years. We had two big milestones this year. Our 10-year anniversary, and I turned 40. So
Yay.
Congrats all around.
yeah, thank you. I have been alive for 40 years.
I've done it.
Nailed it.
I've kept myself alive.
Yeah, and then Emmett is 9. He's in 4th grade. And then Emmylou is 6. She's in 1st grade. And I tell you, life is in full swing. It's a really busy but rewarding season right now. So
Yeah.
we are tired but fulfilled.
Oh, yay.
I love it.
Well, you got to tell us a little bit more about their kids. They're such unique individuals.
Yeah, well, I'll take that as a compliment.
It is.
Thank you.
No, in a great way. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, isn't he into animals?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Emmett has a couple of lizards and a snake. He can tell you he's like a savant with reptiles. If we see something, and we spend a lot of time out in nature, we see something, he can give you details. So, this is a queen snake, and they're rear-fanged, and it's like, I don't know how he gathers all this information. But and he plays the drums,
Yes.
and he's just a very unique and musical and deep thinker. He's just I don't think I've ever met anybody like him. I feel really blessed to be his dad.
Yeah.
So cute.
And then Emmylou is like a little tornado. She is she's about as confident a human being as you'll ever meet.
Yep.
I hope that never leaves her. I think that's going to serve her really well. She's outgoing and funny and just a joy to be around. I think people who aren't in our family maybe need to take a nap after they spend time with me. But it's good. There was a balloon, this gold star balloon, at the ceiling of our sanctuary at our church for a couple of months. It stayed up. And that is a result of my daughter. So
I didn't know that.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, no,
Have you seen it?
No, I don't know that I've seen it.
No, it finally came down.
Okay.
But yeah,
But she's a tornado.
Stayed. Yeah, she is a tornado. And that balloon stayed for so much longer than I ever would have expected.
Well, so one of the things that blesses me when I see her is that she dresses as she pleases often. Yes.
Very much so.
I mean, I've seen a lot of tutus.
Yeah. She's a twirler. She's a big twirling fan.
Yeah.
I love it.
Whatever clothes can accommodate the twirling, I think she's in.
Who doesn't love a good twirl?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we're cut from the same cloth.
Oh, yes.
I would feel so honored if someone called me a tornado of a person.
You are.
I love that. I'm going to start using that. That's amazing.
Well, so congratulations on the 10 years. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm not quite. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. I guess let's talk about worship leader / choir director. Kind of how we know each other now in this new season for you guys. You and your wife are great partners, and talk about how that's all come to be.
Oh, sure. So I guess it's been about 6 months ago when John Bledsoe, the worship leader, stepped down, kind of unexpectedly.
Yes.
And we'd been involved with the music pretty heavily since we've been a part of the church. And Haley approached me and said, I really feel like God wants me to pursue this position. And I said, absolutely. That it makes total sense. You certainly have my blessing. Go for it. But they put the criteria of what they were looking for in a worship leader. And 2 boxes that Haley did not check were formal training in music, which she doesn't read music. Haley is just self-taught and very just naturally gifted.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then they needed somebody to direct the choir, which without being able to read music or conventional training, is kind of not in Haley's wheelhouse at all. So, nor is it in my wheelhouse.
At least you're honest.
But they took Haley's application. They said, "Oh my gosh, we would love to do this," but they said, "We kind of want to tack Jake into the mix because he checks a couple of those boxes that you don't check." And so I was like, "All right, I guess I can do that." So we interviewed together, and I tell you, I was very anxious. I thought, I've never directed a choir. I'm an instrumentalist. I'm not really, I would never consider myself to be a singer. So they asked if I could lead the choir, and I sort of reluctantly was like, yeah, I think I can do that. And one quote that I love is how God equips the called. He doesn't call the equipped. So I feel like I didn't feel ready or prepared. But I think obviously God knew what he was doing and put us in this position. I feel like Haley just is so skilled at what she does with the church, from picking the music to leading the band and just leading the congregation in worship. And I love being able to support her in that. And I think that I'm learning as I go as a choir director. It's just a totally unique and new thing, but I love the challenge of it. So yeah, we're definitely learning as we go, but I feel like we're getting.
Oh,
getting
you
better.
are. Yeah, you're getting there.
Amazing.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but Billy and I, and then the Mages were sitting next to us, and you guys were right behind us when they read John's resignation. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
And we were all freaking out, looking at you guys like, this is it, because if you recall, you guys, hopefully I can say this, she'll edit it if I can't. You guys had applied for a music or worship leader position in another part of the state a year or two ago. And remember, that kind of took a long time. And then it was like that door just kind of closed. And
yeah, Haley got a call out of nowhere from this church in Cleveland.
Okay.
And, it was all online at the time. It was right in the thick of COVID. And so we were leading worship online, and they wanted to hire us, and they wanted to move us to Cleveland. And it was a United Methodist Church.
Okay.
So great people.
Right.
Yeah.
But Haley got a check in her spirit about it as things dragged on longer than we anticipated. And she just felt like the Lord didn't want us to move. And
yeah, amen to that.
And also,
and
my mom didn't want you to move.
Yes.
The two important things.
No, because I was praying for you guys to get that. But when that door kind of closed, I was like, I mean, we just knew then, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, we didn't exactly know how it was going to play out at the time.
Right.
But yeah, we went, I really feel like we needed that experience. And I think that was, I'm really grateful having had the opportunity to lead worship, even sort of a compromised way. But that, I think that prepared Haley and me to do what we're doing now with some experience under our belt.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing a great job. I know that I'm sure every Sunday is kind of a new adventure because we have a new pastor and a new youth pastor as well. But yeah, you guys are, I mean, you're hitting it out of the park. So it's great.
Oh, we
were talking earlier about how long we've gone to that church. We were there before John. And that's...
Well, yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, before John was the worship leader.
Oh, well, not before he was born. But before John was the worship leader.
Yeah.
We were there when he took over that.
Yeah,
so
there was somebody else
We've been there for a hot minute.
Yeah.
If I say we, I mean you.
No, that's for sure. Well, so let's talk about the children's education stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that is how I've been able to support our family this is year 5, where it's my full-time job. So I have my own business. It's called Jake of All Trades. And I go to schools and libraries and community events and entertain and educate young kids, like 4 or 5. That's kind of my, I don't know why. Just how it ended up the way
That's your demographic.
Yeah, so I have an alphabet book / CD that I wrote that I use pretty regularly to teach kids the letters of the alphabet and their sounds. And I give a lot of lessons, ukulele lessons mostly. Young hands, the tiny little hands can't necessarily do it. So, I really feel called and equipped to work with young kids. I think that is something that I feel really really comfortable in that world with little guys, which isn't necessarily, I think, common, especially for a man.
Right. Yes.
I absolutely love it. So it's been something that's grown really organically. It was kind of a side hustle, and then it grew and grew to the point where, wow, I can keep us afloat doing this. So I took the plunge. It was a little over 4 years ago.
Okay.
Where it was like, okay, we're sink or swim. And but I mean, it's been, the Lord has blessed it. I mean, think one thing after the next, from like, I'm not a businessman. I'm not out like hustling and trying to get gigs. And I just feel like the opportunities continually come to me. And I'm so grateful for that, because it makes me really uncomfortable, like reaching out to people and being like, hey, I just feeling like a used car salesman or something.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm with you.
Well, so what kind of places do you play? Do you find these kids? I know, like preschools or. Yeah,
preschools is what I do mostly during the school year. There's, I don't know, like a half a dozen schools that I go to either weekly. Most of them are weekly.
Okay.
And then in the summer, libraries nationally have a summer reading program.
Right.
And so they'll bring in a magician or an animal guy or whatever. And I'm on the list of of people that they bring in. And so it's mostly Middle Tennessee, Williamson County and Davidson County. I'm up just mostly Middle Tennessee stuff. But the summers are pretty busy for me with playing at libraries.
Yeah.
I have the library circuit in the summers.
That's awesome.
And what is probably not coming through for our listeners is that you're super high energy. I've seen a video, and because I think you have a fairly robust YouTube channel. Is that true?
Well, when COVID hit, all these schools that had me said, "Hey, obviously you can't come, but if you want to make videos," they were so gracious. Said, "If you make videos and send them to us, we'll pay you as if you were." And so I started a YouTube. I thought, well, if I'm going to put all the time and effort into putting these videos together, which is really hard. I just
Absolutely.
the lighting and to get the sound just right and all the editing and whatever. So anyway, during that season, I maybe made, I don't know how many videos, and put some of them on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Maybe 15 or 20 of them. Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel that I was really active in until I could go back to do stuff in person. And then I stopped.
Well, what I was going to say, though, is so I've seen some of the videos. I've never seen your live show, but I just know it's super high energy. I'm sure the kids just love that.
Yeah.
The one I saw, you were jumping over a table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he is going to break his neck. And I'm sure Haley feels that way sometimes. But yes, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it is a challenge to engage a group of 4-year-olds for, 35 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's part of the reason that I call my company Jake of All Trades, is because, if I just go and play the guitar and sing songs, it's like 5 minutes and they're done. So I have puppets and I do like magic tricks, and I do a lot of art on a whiteboard with dry erase markers. So I'll do kind of like interactive stories where, and I'll have I feel like kids are engaged when they get to be participants.
Yes.
It's like, as an adult, we can just sit at a show and be an audience member and just listen and observe. But I just don't think kids are wired that way.
Right.
Kids want to be part of it. So everything that I do is with the goal of the kids being part of what's happening. They want to be, they don't want to just sit and listen to me. And I found some of the things, the thousands of hours that I've put into the instruments that I play is a part of it. But if I just sat and played the bass for a half an hour, it's like, okay. But they love when I make fart sounds with the bass.
Of course
make
they
it
do.
sound like an airplane. Those are big hits.
Those are big hits. I love
That's
it.
so funny.
Well, so you obviously just mentioned you play the bass. Tell us about your history as a musician and how, how you got started in that and how eventually that led you to where you are now.
My mom was a music teacher. And my mom was also the oldest of 8. So everybody in that family is musical. So we'd sing. We always sang the doxology before we ate. That was like our prayer, and it would be like 4-part harmony.
I bet that was awesome.
It was a really cool environment to grow up. So I feel like I was just immersed in music from the time my mom loved telling the story about me being 8 months old, and she would sit with me at the piano and she trained me to match pitch. So she said, like that. That was a language. Music was a language that made sense to me before I could speak. You know? So I think, and I know that there's obviously there's nature and nurture, but I think that I was in an environment that just absolutely maximized the God-given abilities that I have. So that was just so cool.
Yeah.
So I sang a lot and took a little piano lessons when I was young. But I didn't really get super excited about music until I guess high school. I started playing a lot of guitar, and then I played bass in school orchestra, and that was kind of something I did, but not with any sort of discipline. But I got a scholarship to play the bass at our college, and so I kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna go full in. So when I got to college, I was really disciplined. I played I almost like too disciplined. It's just hours and hours
Wow.
of practice, kind of holding myself up in a room. And yeah, that was a season of life that I think was absolutely necessary for me to be able to do what I do now.
Yeah.
But I think I maybe didn't have the balance to be a healthy person that I had during that season, where it's just really singular focused. But yeah, I would never go back and do it again. I'm done practicing hours and hours a day. But
Fair.
Well, so you're talking about back in the day, but what state are we in? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all of my family is either in Oregon, or mostly in Oregon, or Washington State, or Idaho, or Montana. So,
Okay, all of the Northwest. And you said our college. What did you? Is it a state school there, or?
Yeah, well, in my hometown of Coeur d'Alene, there is a junior college.
Okay.
And so I spent my first 2 years there, and then Eastern Washington University is right across the border.
Okay.
Like right outside of Spokane, Washington.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So that's where I finished. But actually, I started college in 1999 and finished in 2011.
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
It only took me 12 years. To
Oh,
get my
nice.
Only took you 12 years.
knocked it out.
Nailed it.
But yeah, I took a big break in the middle, but I finished in a different century than I started.
Well, when we talked to Haley, she was telling, and Doyle actually as well, they talked about how you and Haley met. I would love to hear your version of that story.
Sure. So Haley traveled with her dad for years and years, and they were passing through our hometown in Idaho, and they were playing at a church where my buddy was really involved with the music, and they wanted to kind of make it a concert and have him to be like the opening act for Doyle and Haley. And so he asked me to play with him, and so we played our few songs, and then Doyle and Haley got up there, and I was so blown away. First, I mean, Doyle, I had never seen a person in person play the guitar like he plays.
Right.
It was just, I mean, incredible. And then Haley got up and sang, and she sang Amazing Grace. And I'm not even exaggerating. The hairs on my arms like stood up.
Yeah.
I got chills. I'm like, there is an anointing on this girl's voice.
Yes.
This sort of wacky cowgirl boot.
Where in person?
It's like at the time she had such a present Southern accent to me. It was like this really foreign thing for this Northwest kid. So it was just, it came and went. They did their show. It was great, whatever. And my friend who was the opening act stayed in touch with Doyle and traveled with him some and played. And then years later, Haley was going to do a string of shows on her own in Texas. And so she actually, it was Doyle that thought of me, was like, hey, you should contact that Idaho kid. So Haley contacted me about doing these shows in Texas. And I'm trying to remember the timing. Before, I want to backtrack a little bit. So I lost my mom to cancer in 2000.
Oh,
and,
I'm sorry.
It was rough, but during that season, it was really hard for some of my friends to have conversations about that with me. It's like they didn't know what to say.
Right.
Nothing really was comforting to me. And so they like, but Haley, this girl who had wasn't really that much in touch with, she called and she was like, hey, I heard about your mom. How can I pray for you? How are you guys doing?
Oh.
And that spoke volumes to me about her character. And it really, I started thinking about her in a different way. It wasn't just this quirky girl who sings beautifully. It was like, wow, she has depth.
Yeah.
So anyway, so flash forward, we do these shows in Texas together. And that was the first time. I think I'd played with her a couple times. Like she'd have me come play bass for shows here or there. But then we spend this time together in Texas, and then we were just like having meals together and really visiting with one another. And it was, I guess there was chemistry.
Yay.
There wasn't anything. It was very innocent. It wasn't like we were like, hey, we should probably, I wasn't thinking that we might get married, but
sure.
We got along so well, and we just stayed in touch after Texas, and we were calling each other, and then it sort of blossomed from long distance. I mean, I was in the Northwest and she was in Tennessee, and she ended up flying up and visiting with all my family and meeting my grandparents and my sisters and everybody.
Oh, wow.
And then, and then I came down, and so we had this sort of long distance thing that ended up obviously working out really well.
Yeah.
So,
very well.
Love it.
Well, so this might feel like we're backtracking a little bit, but you're in college, you're playing bass. At what point are you like, this is a God-given deal here, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life as a professional musician? I mean, how did that transpire? Well,
there was a man who lived in Spokane, Washington, named Roma Weiss Papier. He was this Russian guy, and he played in the Leningrad Philharmonic. It's like one of the world's best orchestras.
Wow.
He has this crazy story where he ended up in Spokane, Washington, where it's like he's this huge fish in this little pond.
Yeah.
And he played in the Spokane Symphony. He was the top bass player. But people would come from all around to take lessons with him. And from Seattle, people would drive across the state from Seattle to take lessons with this guy. And some friends of mine had taken lessons from him, and they're like, yeah, he's a great teacher, but buckle up. It's pretty intense. So I called him nervously one day to ask if he would give me lessons. And he said, well, come in and I'll just see how you play and we'll figure it out. And so I played for him, and he said, yeah, you're terrible. Like you have no technique. You have a terrible sound. And he said, you play in tune. Okay. But mostly everything's bad. And he said, I'll take you on. But we're going to start over. So I've been playing the bass for 10 years, and a lot of it was kind of just winging it and self-taught. But he just broke me down and started me over. And this man, who was in his 70s at the time, had lived through the Cold War. He saw his mother starve to death. He has this insane story, but every note that he plays was so filled with emotion. And I learned such an amazing amount, not only about how to play the instrument, what my hands are supposed to do and everything, but how you can use music as this emotive thing where it's like, where you can really, there's just nothing like it,
Right.
So I got really serious with him, and I tell you that man made me cry more than once in lessons, like screaming. I mean, it's like the typical like Russian, the stereotype of an angry Russian teacher.
No.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I was in my 20s, and he just like at one point during a lesson, he like ripped the bass out of my hands, and he's like yelling at me, and I started crying, and I like backed up to like wipe the tears. And he's like, "Get up here so you can see me." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry." And he, but I tell you, I mean, this hard exterior, but he was the kindest, most loving man. You just kind of had to learn to deal.
You just had to play
it.
well.
Yeah. And it didn't matter. I mean, I could practice for 6 hours a day and come, and I still felt like I was totally unprepared and failed. But I saw the progress in a very short amount of time. I mean, from studying just after a few months, going and playing something else that we hadn't worked on, I'm like, oh my gosh, my skill has improved so much. And the way that he approaches the bass is, I mean, that's kind of shaped my sound. Of the way that I play the bass is totally a result of how he taught me.
Wow.
And I feel like once I had that experience with him, the level of my ability, I just got a lot better. And so then I get opportunities here or there, getting paid money to play the bass. And I thought, well, this is great. I would love to do this more. So then moved to Nashville, and I didn't really have a very clearly defined plan. My friend asked me to move with him to help him with this music project, and I moved. And I've gotten to do some really amazing things with music. So I think it all just kind of happened incrementally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all those hours in the practice room and the years taking lessons from the Russian man, I'll just let me be able to do this. You know,
The Russian man.
What are some of the highlights? What are some of your favorite places or gigs that you've played?
Well, I've gotten to be on a couple of recordings that I was really proud of. I played on half of a Michael W. Smith record.
Nice.
And yeah, that was like
Wow,
pretty awesome. And then I was friends with Joel Smallbone, who's half of For King and Country.
Yes.
So we were friends back in the day, and before they were these massive stars.
Right.
yeah.
They had, like, I came and recorded with them, and then I got to play with Jimmy Allen, like do a record on a song that he did with Monica.
Okay.
From like the 90s Monica.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like this country guy with a #1 hit, and
yeah.
So and I mean, I worked on a ship for a few months. I got to go around the world and play the bass. But I realized pretty early on that there were multiple reasons that I don't think that I didn't want to pursue that as a full-time job. It just feels, music's kind of a tricky thing. I think for me, it's hard for me not to view it as self-serving.
Okay.
You know, I like the context of church where it's this body of believers working together to worship, you know? And when I like being on a stage and playing, I don't know, it just is odd to me. I think that as somebody who would be on stage, whether it's in a secular venue or at church, you have to be really careful to maintain the right mentality.
Yes.
You know? I mean, it's so easy. It's so easy, even in a church setting, where I will catch myself being so concerned with the details about, you know, we got to make sure that we're hitting all the right notes and we're playing at the right time. We're doing all this. I'm like, we'll go through a whole worship set, and I thought, well, I didn't worship at all. You know, that playing music should be the vehicle instead of the end all be all.
Right.
You know?
Right. I hear you.
So
well, but
anyway, I don't know if I would have been able to make a living exclusively as a musician, but I think God kept me from that for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, and I hear what you're saying, but I mean, technically, you are making a living as a musician. I mean, there's not really getting around that. Yeah,
That's true.
So I hear you, and that's, you know, part of, and maybe you and Haley have talked about this a little bit, but part of what we're doing and starting this ministry was trying to help folks, and I mean, especially us. I mean, she had, I would say, some of the ideas that you're having with regard to being a musician, she had as a full-time actress, right? There's that balance of wanting to use the talent that God gave you for His glory,
In such a self-serving atmosphere.
but it can feel that way.
Right.
So, you know, just this idea, and you say it so much better than I do, but just this idea of acknowledging what our talents and gifts are and know that God gave them to us, and to use them for His glory. You know,
Right.
I think if a big blockbuster movie came her way, she would probably do it. But the idea that she knows now, I'm kind of focusing on the faith-based stuff and writing things that are she's got a film that's going to be produced this summer, and just writing things that are glorifying to God now, right? Anyway, I don't know how to better say that. Like I said, she would say this better. But just those talents and gifts that you have, God gave them to you. Sort of, name it and claim it. We've said that before.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to piggyback on that, but
it's weird where I feel like I've struggled sometimes with almost feeling I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, but it's like I don't know. I just think it's a struggle that I've had where I'm like, why did God equip me in this way? And how do I best use it where it's not, all about me?
Yeah. Well, that's where your heart should be. So that's awesome.
And you're doing it. You are doing that.
For sure. Well, okay. Well, while we're talking about it, what are your talents and gifts? Let's name it.
Talents and gifts.
Talents and gifts that God gave you. And we're giving honor and glory to him. We're not telling people what we're good at. That's not the point.
I think so. My dad has always been a family counselor.
Okay.
And he minored in psychology. And I think that he has a really amazing gift to have conversations with people that can go deep really quickly. And I think that he's naturally empathetic. And I think that was modeled to me at a very young age, how to relate to people, how to be able to. And I think that's where being able to relate to young kids in a way that doesn't feel belittling or I just think trying to honor kids by giving them the respect to be able to have a conversation with them and not just pat them on the head and set the bar really low. I think that was modeled to me from a really young age. So I feel like I have the gift with kids to be able to have a dialogue with them that matters,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think that's something that I feel very equipped with, is just being able to relate to kids. And then, music's something that's always just come very naturally to me.
Yes. Definitely.
Both with the environment that I grew up in and just, I think just God-given ability. So the trick has been trying to learn how to best use those, as a Christian and as a provider.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So many deficiencies. It's like, okay, well, I got these two things.
Got these two things, and Haley has all the others. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's a conversation for another day when you make great partners. But you also just calling it out for you. You're insanely friendly and such a great encourager. So some of that will come across at church. I'm sure you guys know this, but every once in a while, the rest of us regular folks get to play on the worship team with you guys, and that's so intimidating. But you guys you're so encouraging, and you're like, let's just do this from the beginning, or whatever it takes to make us feel more comfortable.
Yeah,
and it's awesome. Whatever that is, that quality just really comes through, because you haven't met a stranger, and I love that.
Oh, thanks. I feel so grateful. I know Haley and I are just so grateful when people are willing to give of their time to be part of it. We're like, no, anything you do is great. We just want you to be here.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
That's awesome. That's so encouraging.
All right, so we did talk a little bit about this in our the forum that we go back and forth and talk about, just to gather some information. Looking forward to the future. We're talking about maybe doing a new album. What's going on there?
I have all the songs, and I made an album. It was, I don't know, a few years ago, maybe I don't know how many years ago, and it's so expensive to make an album. That's for sure. Definitely the problem. So the first album I made for very little money, but I had people that were really generous with their time and believed in what it was, and so they were willing to kind of allow me to do stuff for a huge discount. And
Nice.
Just another perk of playing multiple instruments is like, well, I guess I'll play all the instruments.
I love it.
So, I have all the songs, and I have a friend up in Michigan, one of my best friends, who built a home studio, and he said, hey, you want to come up and record? We can do it. It's just logistical stuff, you know, making sure that we have money set aside to do that. And Haley wants to make another album too. So, we don't know. I kind of feel like that's maybe what we should do first. But I don't know. We're just going to see where it leads.
It's so exciting. You know, we really didn't talk about that. We talked a lot about bass, but you play everything.
Yeah.
Well, my primary instruments are upright bass and guitar, but I don't know. I think if it's got strings, it's kind of like, whether it's a banjo or a ukulele or, you know, whatever. It's like kind of the same thing.
But don't you play keys too?
Yeah, I play piano.
Yeah.
That's something that's been kind of more recent that I'll get on. I talk about my son getting on these little kicks. I'll get on these little kicks and just like I got. You ever go to McKay's?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Of course.
So it was a couple years ago. There was a clarinet there for $40, and I thought, what's worst case scenario? Well, I play it and whatever. I got really into the clarinet, and it was every night. Everybody goes to bed, and I'm up playing away on my clarinet.
Oh, that's awesome.
That sounds awesome.
It was super fun. I kind of like got to a certain level and was like, okay, I scratched that itch. But,
that's awesome. I love that. That's hilarious.
But music's, it's a language. So I feel like if you speak language, whatever the vehicle is, that's kind of secondary.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
That's so cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's you and your wife are really such a blessing to us in our little teeny tiny church. But, just every once in a while, so we really haven't said this, but my husband plays guitar in the band.
Very well.
Fairly often. And every once in a while, you'll be on guitar, and I'm like, does that just fully intimidate you? And he's like, yes.
Oh, poor dad.
No, not.
Oh, we're such different guitar players. I can't do what he does on the guitar at all.
Well, and he loves it. So it's fun to see him, kind of plug in there in y'all's ministry, but then, it's his as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just way fun to really to watch you and Haley use the God-given talents that you've been given as a blessing to our congregation. It's just special to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, the blessing is mutual. I mean, we feel so grateful to be a part of the congregation at First Baptist. It's like, I think that's what drew us in right away when we moved from Franklin, where we had our community and whatever. And then we're like, well, the community's gone because we're 45 minutes away from our old church. And so so the second week we walked into the building, it was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing group of people who are just so just kind and welcoming and generous. So it really was the body that drew us in right away.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad.
Well, how can people connect with you, follow you as you possibly maybe release a new album? How can people follow you?
I have a website. It's songsbyjake.com.
Perfect.
And I'm usually good at putting where I'm going to be up. And then there's links. I think that there's a link to the YouTube channel, and I think that there's a way you can stream the songs.
Okay.
I say this all tentatively. Like I'm like 80% sure.
Maybe sure. What about the Jake of all trades? Is that also, can people also book you there for the kids stuff?
The Songs by Jake is where you can contact me. So I'll like my LLC is just called Jake of all trades.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? The website, that name was taken.
Makes sense.
But dormant, which was really disappointing.
That's so annoying because they're just sitting there waiting for someone to ask them to buy it. That's what they're doing. That's annoying.
Well, we just had to go with Songs by Jake.
Songs by Jake is great. I love it.
Well, thank you.
I love it. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We love you and your family, and
Oh my
obviously
gosh,
you
yes.
guys are a huge part of my parents' lives, and I'm grateful for that, and
Yes.
that y'all are such good friends. So thank you so much for being here, and this was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and I'm just grateful to have been a part. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Well,
All
take
right,
care.
thank
We'll see you later.
Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, you too. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye. For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. We love you all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.